Colton's most cherished item was his Mustang, which he loved. He would maintain it spotless by cleaning and shining it every weekend. Evelyn, his daughter, was playing close by while he cleaned the car one Saturday morning. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Muses. Sometimes I still hear my little girl scream at night, remembering the horrific event. Daddy, be careful. Evelyn shed a tear. She had no idea that she was going to save herself from a terrible situation. It was too late when her panicked yell was heard by her father. Though who would believe her when she said she couldn't manage it alone? She was in complete shock at what she had just seen happen to her father. A method has to exist. Evelyn was unaware at the time that her home security camera had captured the whole incident, which ultimately proved to be quite helpful. If not, nobody would have taken it seriously. However, what was the fate of Colton, and how could Evelyn assist him? Colton made the decision to drive his Mustang first thing on Saturday morning and wash it afterwards. Evelyn asked to go with him as she raced after him. Evelyn argued she had grown and even had her booster seat ready, but Colton normally said no, citing her tiny size as a reason for not being able to ride in the front seat. Colton was unable to resist his daughter in his current state of mind. Oh, he gave her a front row seat. Evelyn was sad to go home after their drive since she had enjoyed every second of it. When they returned, Evelyn laughed heartily as she snatched up her scooter and began riding up and down the street. As he cleaned his car, Colton watched her closely. Her laughing was audible in the background, but he was so concentrated on getting his Mustang clean that he forgot to check on Evelyn for a while. It was Evelyn's cry at that point. Panicked, Colton turned to face the possibility of what had transpired. His daughter's terrified expression contorted as she pointed at something on the ground. She said, "Daddy, look out!" A beat skipped by Colton's heart. His daughter was pointing at something he had no knowledge about. With all the soapy water, he was unable to see anything on the ground when he glanced down. "Daddy, behind you! Daddy!" Evelyn let out another cry. Frantically, she gestured to the floor. "How come? Where?" Colton answered. It was too late for Colton to see what Evelyn was pointing at, so he hastily sprang up and down. He lost his balance while jumping up and down because his foot slid on the soapy water. Evelyn was horrified to see her father stumble and bang his head on the sidewalk. There was still danger near her father, so she cried and yelled at him to get up. However, Colton heard Evelyn's screams become progressively softer as he lay there, stunned and wounded. Evelyn realized she needed to get her dad out of danger. She glanced carefully at the threat and hurried to him. He was too heavy for her to get away, even as she pulled at his arm. Would that Evelyn's mom could come home? Though it remained silent, Evelyn called out for assistance, hoping that one of their neighbors would hear her. Evelyn's only thought was on getting her father back. The risky circumstance no longer concerned her. Grabbing both of his hands, she pulled again. This time she saw that her father's body was moving somewhat. The danger had not yet passed, but she managed to shift her father onto the grass by pulling one more time. Her father's severe bleeding made for a terrifying sight. Evelyn sprang to her feet and hurried inside, looking for a phone. Fortunately for Evelyn, she was just running inside when her father's phone rang. Her mother was phoning. She took up the phone fast and started screaming for her mother to come home. Her mother started to say, "Hey, darling," but Evelyn cut her off. "Mom, you need to get home right now. Daddy is injured." Evelyn shed a tear. The frantic screams of her daughter shocked Evelyn's mother, but she wasted no time in driving home. She entered a horrifying sight there. She realized she needed to contact 911 as soon as she spotted her husband laying on the ground near a small pool of blood and soapy water. Evelyn's father had passed out completely by the time the paramedics came. As soon as they realized what had happened, they hastily placed him on a stretcher. Driving to the hospital, Evelyn and her mother trailed the ambulance. Upon arriving at the hospital, Evelyn and her mother inquired about Colton's room and were shocked to discover he was transferred to the surgery room. His head wound was so large that they had to do an emergency surgery. Colton was still in the operation room hours later. A doctor finally showed up after what felt like a lifetime, but he didn't appear to have good news. There was something unsettling about him, and his expression seemed dejected. "Woman Dirkhouse?" he inquired. "Indeed, physician. What's happening?" She answered in a voice that was shaking. "I apologize to Mrs. Dirkhouse. But the procedure is taking longer than expected. There have been some issues, and we need to decide on something really important. We must get your consent because your spouse is unconscious." Evelyn's mom was taken aback. "Permission to do what?" she cautiously inquired. Colton's life was in jeopardy, the doctor said, and they didn't have many alternatives left. They still had one option, but it would need an experimental procedure. The likelihood of Colton's survival would be uncertain. Why weren't the usual treatments able to rescue him? What had transpired to get him to this state? With concern in her eyes, she turned to face Evelyn. "Sweetheart, perhaps the doctors might rescue Daddy if you told them what had happened to him. Please give it a go for your father. I know it's difficult." Evelyn truly wanted to support her father, but at that moment, talking about that terrible event was out of the question. It was simply too terrifying. However, she saw the significance of making an attempt. She then informed the doctor that she wished to try telling him, but in a private setting. After assessing Evelyn's condition, the physician led her into a vacant room. They spent a few minutes in that chamber, leaving Evelyn's mother in the waiting area outside. The door opened and the doctor hurried out after 10 or 15 minutes. He made no attempt to look or talk to Evelyn's mother. Rather, he raced past her directly into the surgery room. Her mother questioned, "Evelyn, what happened?" "Mom, I succeeded. I informed him about the events. Do you think well of me?" Although Evelyn's mother was extremely proud, she was still unaware of what had actually transpired. A physician hurriedly left the room. "We succeeded," he said. "The operation is complete, but Colton remains unconscious and is in a stable condition." Though Evelyn and her mother were relieved, the situation wasn't quite finished. "Is he visible to us?" Evelyn inquired. "After a short while," the physician answered. After waiting patiently in room 11 with her mother, Evelyn noticed a significant change in Colton's appearance. The hardest part wasn't over yet, though, since he said something unexpected the next time he saw his wife and kid. "Who are you?" Confused, Colton inquired. "Darling, what do you mean? Do you not recall us?" Evelyn's mother inquired, her anxious eyes on the physician. "Is this normal, Doc?" However, the physician appeared to be as perplexed as the rest of us. At last, the doctor remarked, "Please follow me outside. There, I'll go over everything." The doctor informed Evelyn and her mother outside the room that this reaction was normal and that it most likely occurred during surgery to repair his head injury, though it might possibly have been the result of a concussion. Though he wasn't sure, he was unable to respond when asked if Colton's memory would ever return. Evelyn was heartbroken. Even her own father had lost sight of her. He had no idea what he was doing, and recovering his memory would take a while. They put forth a lot of effort to win Colton's confidence once more. They told him stories about their past activities together and brought picture albums to the hospital. Evelyn retrieved the books he used to read to her and showed him her beloved stuffed animals. Gradually, Colton began to transform. After spending a month and a half in the hospital, Colton needed around a month to regain his memory. At that point, he was prepared to return home. However, there remained one unresolved question. Evelyn's mother was unaware of what had transpired that terrible day because she was preoccupied with her husband's memory loss and her attempts to reverse it. However, Evelyn and the physicians knew the answer. Thus, when Colton was preparing and packing for his last day at the hospital, Evelyn's mother approached the physician and at last inquired about what her daughter had mentioned to him 15 months prior. When Evelyn turned to face her father after telling the doctor she had been playing with her scooter while he cleaned the car, she observed something moving on the ground. A very toxic snake was hiding in what she believed to be the garden hose swishing about in the water. Colton was bitten by the snake in his ankle, and the poison entered his circulation. However, the physicians were clueless as to why his organs were failing throughout the procedure because they were unaware that he had been bitten. They didn't realize they needed to give him a blood transfusion in order to preserve his life until Evelyn informed them about the snake. And they were just in time, since instead of a celebration, There would have been a burial if the poison had continued to spread throughout his body. They had no intention of staying near the spot where Colton nearly perished or near any snakes. Colton and his family decided to relocate when he healed completely. They relocated to a tranquil area in a different state, perhaps away from any venomous snakes. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.